Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Season 7, Episode 5 of the phenomenon known to all as Saturday afternoon's main event. If you do not know who I am for the 70-something last time, I suggest you go to school, go back into your library, get the biggest dictionary you can find, preferably Merriam-Webster, and look me up under the word phenomenal. It is I, the phenomenal one, and of course here on Saturday afternoon's main event, I am not here alone because I'm joined by my co-host, the one, the only limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun, was not having a hard time holding his alligator sound. So please, allow me to introduce to you the one, the only. Oh wait, hold on, give me a second, guys. I'm so sorry. You guys have to be a part of this. Give me 2 claps and a peep snatch.
Woo! Yes, sir. We are now here. We are complete. We are here on a Saturday. Oh man, what a crazy week, as usual. Crazier than normal. Then again, what is normal in the world of pro wrestling?
Exactly. But peeps, 48 days into the year.
Yes.
We're on a roller coaster. I kid
Yes.
you not. But
48 days and we're almost halfway to as many I digresses.
insane. It's insane. But you know what?
Yes.
You said something funny, peeps. You said complete. Are you sure we're complete today?
Well, I think we are. I mean, we've got you, we got me, we got the fans.
We're forgetting one person out of the Calvary. You know that?
Oh?
Guys, allow me to bring back to you all the host of Morton's Law. The one, the only Mr. 411, Christopher Morton.
How's it going, guys? Thank you again for having me. I
man.
appreciate being on the show. And of course, the pleasure is all yours.
And of course, we can't do this without a customary huss.
Yes,
Huss.
yes.
Give you a huss. There you go.
Oh, man. But look, we got the 3 of us. We got Same. It's a Saturday afternoon, so you know what we're going to do? We're going to do what Same is supposed to do. Give you laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. So look, guys, to go ahead and start off the show, you know you usually have to go ahead and hear one thing and one thing only, right? Peeps, I think the sound should be coming up right around now, and I think that's it, right? Ladies and gentlemen,
There you go.
it is time for Wrestling Crash Course. So look, let's go ahead and fire it up with the first piece of news. There have been rumblings in the world of professional wrestling in the IWC, which is so prestigious. Us. Anywho,
Yes.
Taz Okada may be all elite. Chris, would you mind going ahead and explaining to the world why this may be significant and why in the world is this the full-on possibility of AEW finally getting back over 1 million? Because I don't see it happening.
That's a tough sell because as people talk about when New Japan Pro Wrestling went on Access TV, you thought the ratings would have been a good amount. And yet they're drawing numbers under 100,000, which is pretty bad. So when you look at the overall picture, yes, is New Japan big in their country? Of course it is. And have they drawn well in the States? Yes, they've come to the States and had really good crowds. But overall, the majority of this country has no idea what New Japan Pro Wrestling is.
Exactly right.
And as a result of that, I just don't know how many more eyeballs he's going to bring to the television set. And at the beginning, maybe there'll be more people checking in just to see what it's about. But ultimately, it all comes down to how he's booked and what Tony Khan does with him to make people care more about him. And furthermore, the language barrier. I don't know how much English he can speak. So that's going to be a part of it because you have to go the Nakamura way with subtitles. Fans don't always relate to that. So there's a lot of variables that go into his drawing card.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely right. Peeps, what do you think about this whole situation as a whole?
Well, internationally, it's going to do well because for those that don't know the personal life of Kaz Okada, he's married to a very prominent Japanese actress who now we know is going to probably come along with him. And I think when you're bringing in an international name like Okada to the States, as Chris just stated, it's going to be how they book him, how they promote him, and even more so, the audience that they're going to be trying to get that attention from. And if they're looking to boost the international eyeballs to their company, it's a lot better than being on Access TV, which I think maybe 15 people have or even know that they have. And that's usually the problem, and it's a detriment to trying to get that extra those extra eyeballs to him. But the good thing is he's been on AEW television before. We know that Forbidden Door, the last 2 Forbidden Door pay-per-views that they've done, they've gotten a decent amount of eyeballs to him and to the product and to New Japan. So those that are cooked into the wrestling, the fandom of New Japan and AEW, because historically AEW fans have watched a lot of New Japan, but the problem is it's not bringing any cross promotional media to those eyeballs back to the product. So now they're going to have to find out how to get that as mainstream as possible and bring more eyeballs to the product. So hopefully they'll do something to get that notoriety out there of knowing what kind of talent they have. But it also doesn't hurt. He's been in the company before.
But Sean, I'm sorry to cut you off. But more importantly, AEW, where they're struggling right now, is the attendance of Dynamite and Collision and the ratings. Listen, they get their consistent 800K most weeks. They fell a little bit under. Sometimes they go over. Obviously, Punk brought more eyeballs to the television set. Because if you think about their ratings history, the 1.5 million that they debuted with on the first Dynamite, they haven't come close to that number since.
No, they haven't. And that's part of the problem. And that is a problem of trying to figure that out when the behemoth of the WWE continues to lurk over their shoulders, and they're going to be constantly compared to what the other product is doing, when we have all been saying this for years. Don't worry about the competition. Worry about improving your own product, and promoting your own product is such that is the antithesis of what the WWE is doing. And that's something that AEW does a bad job of.
You're totally right on that. So I have to ask you both a question. Do you guys feel that with the addition of Mercedes Moné, with the addition of Will Ospreay, and now the presumable addition of Kaz Okada, do we see the influx of ratings once more? Do we see them get back to 1.5 million on Dynamite on a consistent basis, or at least once this year? Is that what we're hoping for, or do you guys see that it's not going to go ahead?
No chance of that number coming back. But what I will say, we'll see a boost initially. We're definitely going to see that number maybe climb around 900,000 because everyone's going to be curious. Listen, Ospreay has a big following. Mercedes Moné has a big following. And the question is, does it have staying power? Will those fans stay with the product over the course of time, depending on how they're booked, how they're presented, and is it serious? Because obviously we know the 2 of the 3, I should say all 3 to be fair, can put on really good wrestling matches. Great in some cases. Like if we think about back to Sasha Banks and Bayley at NXT, one of the greatest women's wrestling matches we've ever seen to this date.
Yes.
So clearly all 3 can handle it in the ring. But the problem with AEW is character development and making people care about the people that are in the ring.
Yeah.
Yes. Because we looked at that with Adam Copeland, and that hasn't gotten them any help in their ratings at all. And he's a huge name. Exactly.
So let's just go ahead and kind of like wear this out and see where it goes by March, because it's saying that it should be a presumable happening by AEW Big Business, which will be taking place in Boston at the TV.
That's such a hokey name. Big Business. It's almost as bad as Great Balls of Fire.
Well, to their credit, though, they have already sold, I believe, 5,500 tickets when I checked on WrestleTix.
Yeah.
And that number is climbing daily, and they're starting to increase capacity. So we'll see what that number ends up at.
And they've got 4 weeks, so they still have some time.
Of course. So from there, we move to the world of WWE. Braun Breaker has joined SmackDown. Of course, one half of the Wolf Dogs, the NXT champions, is now on SmackDown. Peeps, what does this mean for the main roster? What does this mean for Braun Breaker as a whole? And what do we get to see out of Braun for the next coming months leading into WrestleMania and presumably the rest of the year?
We get a younger, more energetic, fresher version of Brock Lesnar, because that's how I think they're going to portray him. Not so much of the Suplex City type stuff and not so much over the top, but he has an exuberance that the NXT audience has been using. He's a fresh face. SmackDown is going to use him. And then the good thing about this is, because of the name cachet, son of Rick Steiner, and just how they're presenting SmackDown, knowing the SmackDown is going to move to USA next year. That's a small piece that they can use to kind of advertise, well, you know, SmackDown may not be on free television, but going to USA Network, moving that in, that's just another face that you can have. And then you've also got another younger guy that you can bring in to kind of freshen up the singles championships. They can use that push, that fresh face on television going forward. I think that definitely helps going in that direction for SmackDown. As far as they could have put him on Raw, Raw has a lot of stars. They have a lot of guys that are already there. SmackDown, I think, is a better fit for him right now.
Definitely so. Definitely so. Chris, what do you think?
I mean, to piggyback off of his thoughts, yeah, 100%. I mean, in terms of using him as Brock Lesnar, clearly we know of the Brock storyline. We could talk about that. If you guys didn't talk about that last week, in terms of the plans for Brock before we found out more regarding his participation in Scandal. So now, I mean, listen, ultimately, Braun Breaker has to be given like just job matches right away. He has to be crushing people, getting over, as you saw. Was it last night or the night before, Monday night, where there was actually a job match? It was AOP. AOP last night wrestled 2 jobbers. That's what they need to get back to. If the majority of your show are good matches, you can have 1 or 2 squash matches in the mix. No one's going to care because you're short. So if you can get Braun Breaker on a good winning streak, I'm not talking about a Goldberg streak because that's insane, but get him to a point where the fans are now he's over. And if his first loss is going to be of any kind, it has to be a screw job loss because you got to keep him strong. So over time, and listen, with all the talent there, as you mentioned, it's gonna take a while to get him to that point. And also depending on how the fans react to him, because if they react to him, then he's gonna get a fast push.
Yes,
of course.
And it's completely different, the NXT crowd versus a SmackDown or Raw crowd. Because if you look at it, when you see him on television, especially when they are in Florida, you know there's about maybe 600-700 people inside the building. So it's a different feel, it's a different crowd, and they're usually pro NXT talent no matter who is there. Mm-hmm. When you take that person and you put them in a 13, 14,000 seat arena, it may be different because maybe those same fans, maybe you have, I'd say 45, 50% of them that look at NXT. But then you're going to have that section that don't know who he is. Mm-hmm. They don't know his lineage, and they don't know what he's being portrayed as. So that's going to be mostly on booking, on promotion, and getting him in the right situation. And like what Chris said, is to get him into some squash matches where he can bury somebody. 15, 20-second match, a 1-minute match. And then he goes on television and brags about how big he is, what he can do. And then somebody on the roster is tired of him running his mouth. You got your first instant feud. You build it out from there.
Got it. Well, speaking on creative, Tommy Dreamer is now head of TNA Creative. Of course, this comes just after 1 week of TNA going ahead and letting go Scott D'Amore. Guys, what is your whole thought process on this thing? Not knowing that, okay, Tommy's now head of TNA Creative. We still don't know who the president is. Of course, like, you know, it's like they have like the head of like what, Access TV being like the head currently from what we know of. So what are we looking towards? Like,
well, I mean, Tommy Dreamer was D'Amore's number 2 and Gail Kim was number 3. So they had a collective team. So it's not a big stretch for Tommy to take over knowing he's already had his hands on the product. It's not like he's coming out of nowhere booking from scratch. Now, in terms of his history as a booker, he hasn't had much of it. And now I recently heard a Jim Cornette episode where they mentioned this story, and Cornette talked about how in about 2005, 2006, before Cornette left, Dreamer was put in charge of OVW to book it. And within a month's time, Cornette's calling them going, "What happened to your TV? What's going on here? What did he do to your TV?" So now, again, that's 17, 18 years ago. Of course, he can learn from those mistakes, and perhaps he will, because early on, I'm sure as a booker, he was going off strictly what he learned from Paul Heyman in ECW. So a lot of that factors in. Now he's had a lot of time to study and learn from other people. So not only can you incorporate Heyman's style, you can incorporate D'Amore and other people in that circle.
Got it. Peeps, what are your thoughts?
It's also a friendly liaison to the locker room from moving from Scott D'Amore to back into Tommy Dreamer, because when you're dealing with the movement of guys that have been in a company, because Scott D'Amore has been on and off in TNA for the better part of 21 years in various different jobs between talent and working as president and being a booker and that kind of thing. So, you have morale that's looking at what's happening going forward. D'Amore is now gone. And knowing that Dreamer is basically going to know what the talent is looking for and what he can try to do as he is learning on the job and then trying to build out, say, 6 months to a year ahead, because that's usually what a lot of bookers would like to do. But a lot of times bookers are planning short term, a month up to the next pay-per-view, etc., in that mold. So we'll find out exactly what the end game is for him. But I think this is, for the most part, trying to get the TNA locker room, the morale back, knowing that a good chunk of that roster wanted to keep D'Amore around and are trying to find a kind of a balance of trying to make sure everything is working fine, and then keeping that going so that guys in the back don't start thinking about, well, this is kind of really messed up. We don't have the same Scott D'Amore. We don't have a lot of that same chain of command. And I think that's a lot of what this is going forward.
Yeah, I mean, when you hear backstage in terms of how much D'Amore brought to the product, how much his vision has helped TNA turn around, and then going back to the original name from Impact, when you think about the history of the Dixie Carter era, the Jeff Jarrett global farce era, a lot of people have been there and back and forth. Some people leave, they come back. But ultimately, it's like, okay, where are we now? And it's better than it's been in a long time, according to people that watch it religiously. And
yes.
I mean, the question is, though, where do they go from here, knowing now that ownership declined D'Amore's offer to increase payroll, to put more money into the product, to wanting to pay for Braun Strowman, little things like that they rejected. So now Tommy Dreamer knows he's already hamstrung coming in, and according to the story, they wanted to cut payroll. So now what do you have to work with? Who's going to stay long term?
Yeah. And you know that's going to have that would have had a real negative effect, because the talent that's already there, they already know based on the dealings with Scott D'Amore. And it's not like the people that were there didn't know something was going on. This isn't one of those things where D'Amore got fired all of a sudden at the last minute. I think Scott D'Amore, having the rapport that he had with the locker room and with the various talent, probably let them know something was going on. I might not be here in 2 months, a month, 6 weeks, because of things happening in the front office and the way the hiring is going, or the direction that the company is going, especially after rebranding the TNA and going into the direction that a lot of the older fans that have watched TNA from its genesis, there's another old pay-per-view that they don't do anymore, getting into what they're looking for and trying to keep those people there, because they're going to need a reason why they're going to stick around if they think, if the person that had the passion that Scott D'Amore had, being on TV and trumpeting all of the values and being the paragon of virtue for the company, he's gone now. And a lot of wrestlers have talked over the last couple of weeks about what they felt about Scott D'Amore and how they felt about the company. Moose, who's the TNA World Champion himself, said, if Scott D'Amore isn't here, I'm not here either. So you're going to have a lot of those kinds of conversations with the talent to see where they are going forward. So I think with Dreamer being there, that kind of is the transition to keep the talent's morale in good standing while trying to build out the future going forward, at least in the interim.
I don't know if you guys are privy to this, though, that D'Amore tried to buy TNA back in 2005, 2006, because he comes from a wealthy family. And he put an offer on the table back then that they rejected, before Anthem, of course, bought it and Dixie Carter took over. So, I mean, he's tried twice now. It's just, you can't understand what they're going for. What is the point of existing just to exist versus making a difference? Why?
Yes. And we've seen a lot of wrestling companies do things like that, where, well, not wrestling companies, but television companies that have a wrestling product on their network, they don't know why it's getting them ratings. They just know what it is. But if they can get something different that they understand, they would push that product off their network as quickly as they could, just like that. And that's kind of what's happened here, because TNA has bounced between TNN to Spike TV to Destination America to Access to. They've been around, and the fact that they still have an audience and it shows you the fan base that still watches the product cares about the company. So it's now going to be how they're going to sustain that with the constant change all the time.
Got it. Well, guys, it's funny because now we're hearing that the statement made from them saying that Tommy might actually be head of creative might be 100% incorrect, because now they're saying that Ariel Scherner, who is the general manager of Anthem, who is owned by TNA, oversees everything in creative, and it's just made up by Tommy, R.D. Evans, and Hunter Johnston, and Gail Kim. But other than that, Scherner is the person who oversees everything, and Anthony Ciccione. So, I mean, for God's sakes, what's being going on here? I mean, for what Peeps said, I guess it's just that, look, they just want to exist. It's not going to grow. From what we know, the more it was really about having it grow. The minute we heard last year that, okay, TNA's back, no longer Impact, TNA's back, it was somewhat about that boom in wrestling where we're kind of like in that Renaissance era, and we were back to just being what we were used to seeing, and that was TNA in a substantial following, WWE thriving, and at least another company within itself trying to go ahead and make a difference within the world. Now you have AEW still trying to go ahead and sit there and thrive, WWE thriving in the best it's been for about how many years, and TNA, which was about to go ahead and hit a renaissance point, and now here we are. Wrestling as it is, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Nate,
see where it goes.
Does Jim Herd ring a bell when you hear that story?
Oh, don't get me started on Jim Herd. Oh, don't get me started on Jim Herd. Oh boy, because we don't want to see a repeat of the Ding Dongs or the Hunchbacks or Big Josh or any other crap. Just get fever sweats thinking about that from back in the day. Ooh.
It's crazy because I was expecting an I digress from Peep States on that one.
Oh, you'll get an I digress, all right.
From there, we move back to the world of AEW, which is the last topic to end Wrestling Crash Course. Morale in AEW is fluctuating. When we say this,
really?
Peace. Yeah, right. Completely surprising. I'll hit a Macaulay Culkin for you.
Aye. Yeah, exactly.
From what we're hearing, last week we heard that morale is at an all-time high. The locker room is happy. Everybody's ecstatic about where AEW is going. May I also add that was reported by Dave Meltzer? To hell with whatever he says, right? Anywho,
you mean the voice of professional wrestling, Dave Meltzer?
Peeps, that was 1984. 40 years removed from that, Peeps. Magazines are nothing anymore. What's the Wrestling Observer newsletter? People watch everything digitally. Like, people listen to like Sean Ross Sapp of all people before they listen to Dave. Just saying. But no. Now we're hearing reports that the talent is frustrated. Not a lot of people are getting booked. And then you have the other side of talent who's just sitting there like, you know what? I can care less. I'm just collecting a check. Because, of course, Tony Khan whipped out Daddy's credit card and gave it to you on a silver platter. So, of course, guys, straight up with all of this happening, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that completely they're going to have to do something about the excess talent that they have that's just sitting there collecting a paycheck and not really wrestling, who have a passion about pro wrestling? Or are they just going to continue to just have the stick of, you know what, we'll just pay you however much, collect a paycheck, get it over with? What are you guys thinking?
I think what you're seeing with all of the talent that they have, the results are the Bang Bang Scissor Gang. When you have a faction teaming up with a faction and then getting together just because they don't have anything else to do with them. And then you have a 12-man tag team match as the main event of your C show. That's what you get. You get guys that are on the roster that are legitimately good, that are sitting in the back waiting to get their name called. You have people that are actually out there that can give you a good match, can give you probably a good feud. There's some guys that are on the mid card that can be used even if they don't go any further than the mid card, but can at least enhance the other talent above them by being showcased on television. What a concept. That's what you could have.
Nate, as Renee Paquette would say, the gangbang gang.
It's insane the amount of talent that Tony Khan has stockpiled only for them to sit at home or in a hotel or in catering, which is rather disrespectful, but is at the same time not all that untrue. And they're waiting for them to be used for something. It doesn't make any sense. And the same guy, Tony Khan, is now running 2 wrestling promotions. And it's like, well, at some point, something's got to give.
Exactly.
And if you're going to be that person that is going to say, I'm the anti-WWE. I want to give the wrestling fans what they want. You can give the wrestling fans what they want, but the wrestling fans, is it good? Is it a product that they really, really want to see? And if you're going to give them that product, make sure it doesn't have referees that don't know what the hell they're doing. My number one pet peeve in AEW are the incompetence of their refereeing and the non-believability of what they're doing. Counts, tags, who's in the ring, who's out the ring. You just threw this guy out, but he can come back in. People using weapons in a regular match. When is any of this stuff going to get cleared up? And if it gets cleared up, then maybe the product will look better. But also that goes to show you the fans that are looking at it, the wrestlers probably feel pretty much the same way. So that has to change.
Have mercy. Chris, what do you think, man?
I mean, it's been a mess for a while. I mean, you hear everybody ranting and raving on X. How many people are really happy there? By the way, Phenomenal One, you should have showed your X to Dave Meltzer regarding his recent comments. That was a pretty good one.
Which one? The Angle one? Or
something. I forget what you said. Yeah.
I think it had to be Angle. You know what? I might as well just have to pull it up. Because for God's sakes, I think something about the IWC is sickening to the point where I now sit there and I begin to wonder, what is it that we're really doing here and trying to accomplish in the IWC when it comes to Twitter? Peeps, thank God you're on social media. Chris, we have a hard time having to go ahead and deal with this. And I don't see why we do it, but I think in the words of Cody Rhodes, it's for the love of the game, right? It has to be. Like, oh gosh, have mercy. Okay, so you know what? I might as well just have to go ahead and pull this up and I have to find it. Finally on. Okay, so here we go. Let's see. Present. All right. So here we go with Dave Meltzer going ahead and saying this about Kurt. So a fan goes ahead and adds out, because Kenny Omega kind of like started praising Kurt Angle, which they went ahead and talked about in an interview. And he's like, I don't study myself when I want to learn. I study Kurt. He's the best for a reason. I take the L, but it'd be a heck of a match. Fan says, why does Kenny have so many 5-star matches and Kurt has none? Seems odd with this coat. Isn't Kenny undermining the system? Dave, Kenny's a big fan of Angle and wished he could have worked with him. I think Angle is one of the best I've ever seen. Countless fours. Yeah, I'm going to contradict your statement by saying that he's countless fours, but he's the best we've ever seen. But somehow you've never given him a 5-star match. So wait for it. Just wait for it. Angle's never had the right opponent. Oh, God. And platform, although obviously Michaels and Benoit matches were really strong. What the? But there is obvious evolution. Look at this. Just watch. For time equivalence, Matt Hughes wouldn't have beaten Usman. What the heck are we getting into UFC? You know what? I digress. Let me just get to my comment. First one of the day, peeps. So, me seeing this, what do you think the Phenomenal One does? I have to fight back. So what do I say? Angle never had the right opponent. It's okay. If you just come out and tell us that you hate Vince's guts that much. This whole tweet is coming from Dave Meltzer, the same man that didn't give Shawn Michaels versus Kurt at Mania 21 5 stars or any Angle WWE or WWF match, to be honest. F out of here, Dave. I'm sick and tired of this. Sometimes I sit there and I wonder what era Dave thinks he's in. Because honestly, whatever it is, it's not hitting. It's not.
No,
it's not.
Not at all. And to think, Phenomenal One, that he didn't give Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe a 5-star match, which most people thought it was.
Yes.
Furthermore, TNA/Impact has never had a 5-star match, which is hard to believe.
I rest my case.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is the reason why he is affectionately known as Uncle Dave. Just put him in the corner, give him his bowl of pudding, and let him sit there and look at WrestleMania 3. So
WrestleMania 3. I was gonna say Starcade. I was gonna say Starcade, but you know what? I'll take WrestleMania 3. Why not?
Yeah. I don't want Starcade to be disrespected by Dave Meltzer, so I just say WrestleMania 3.
Got you. That makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I'll take that. But with that being said, that marks the end of Wrestling Crash Course, guys. We appreciate you guys going ahead and do for this. If you guys want to go ahead and check out the latest social media news and updates, all you got to do is do one thing only. Follow us on Instagram at Saturday Afternoons _main event and on Twitter at Saturday Main. And from here, we get into the first piece of news. The McMahon saga continues. Yeah, peeps. You didn't figure on February 17th, 2024, that we would be sitting here having to go ahead and talk about Vince McMahon still, right?
Yes. After that rant that we went on 2 weeks ago.
Well, peeps, now we won't have to sit there and only talk about Vince. We get to talk about Stephanie McMahon too. Amazing, right? Gosh. Okay, so aside from Earl Hebner, who I believe is the other twin, right? Who somehow went ahead and said that, okay, you know what? Vince and Laurinaitis are in a heap of trouble. Whatever this is. Ted DiBiase comes out while his son might be due for a day in court, says money can't buy integrity, Vince. Yeah, everybody's just okay. But look, there was something that caught my eye a couple of weeks back. And it was during this whole heap of the investigations with Janelle Grant and such. And then somebody brought back the affidavit of one late Ashley Mazzaro. Ashley, of course, who had a stint with the company back around the Ruthless Aggression era, had a couple of good matches. Of course, we're all familiar with Ashley, of course. Playboy, diva, I mean, for God's sakes, you name it, probably done it. And if you remember what the affidavit might have said a couple of years back, it was that she was sodomized, drugged, raped, all while she was in Kuwait on a tour with the WWE.
I believe by a physician over there, which is, I believe, is what they said.
It was funny because when I read it, it was like she said that the person wasn't really a physician. And he just dressed up as one just to kind of cover up the spots and tracks and just have himself blend in just to complete the crime that he committed. But what makes it insane is that now we're hearing off of a news station who had an interview with a friend of Ashley's who sat there and said that I remember exactly that she went ahead and she told an executive that worked there. They try to go ahead and get down to the bottom of it. They left her there, of course. She took a flight back to the U.S., whatever the case may be. Meets with Vince. Prior to meeting with Vince, this was the key information that we did not know and that wasn't in the affidavit. Before meeting with Vince and that meeting with Laurinaitis and all, she had talked with Stephanie McMahon. And within talking with Stephanie, due to the fact that, of course, a woman can go ahead and fully comprehend what's going on with another woman due to what's going on and how, the inner workings are and whatever the case may be. And of course, with her being Stephanie McMahon, she felt as if it was at least substantial backing for Vince to at least listen and understand and comprehend what is going on. Once talking with Stephanie, they go in and they had the meeting with Vince and Laurinaitis and all. And Steph completely leaves her on her own. Duffs it completely. and has her go ahead and just suffer the consequences of getting like, that whole diatribe from Vince and saying, you know what, I think it's better that we sweep this under the rug and forget about it and whatever the case may be. Whatever, right? But now it's crazy to think that you're sitting there and you're wondering, okay, well, now that we know this, doesn't it kind of seem weird that it was after Vince had done what he'd done, whatever the case may be, and actually prior to that, even before that, that Stephanie was kind of about to step down, was ready to step down, kind of didn't want no part in it, then was brought back as CEO, chairwoman. Then once Vince wanted to assume power again, she left. You sit there thinking, okay, maybe it's just because of her father. We get it. She might hate the SOB too. But now when you sit here and hear this story, which of course, it is all continuously now what they're saying is a story, and they're saying that they just swept it under the rug until it is all proven, of course, in a court of law. But if we're having to connect the dots here, does this mean that there are completely a lot of other people who we deem prominent in the company who also know about this? Because, I mean, for God's sakes, it's Stephanie McMahon. Isn't she married to one COO? And trust me, I'm not going to be sitting here, talking down on Hunter Hearst Helmsley, but it's just odd that, your wife knew about this and she didn't tell you. Like, honestly speaking, because right now we're looking at if the WWE gets, completely sued off of all of these different allegations, and if more women come out and say Vince did this to them or Vince did that, don't you think there's going to be a demise within the company? So now,
I mean, when you think about it, though, with how they're trying to move on from him, I don't think they're going to take a big hit.
Of course, but it's weird looking at it from the perspective of Ari Emanuel, who's like the other head of Endeavor. He already said, look, if we find out about other people who are completely a part of this, we're going to clean house. So by cleaning a house, don't you think that kind of like eliminates some people that are like strongholds within the certain areas in the company that make the company what it is today, and have the fans kind of like deem towards them and like go towards the product and actually love it? If they're removed, what happens? What happens to the product then? Are we really gonna have people take over that know the business as well as other people?
The one thing that we're getting from this is, of all people that is trying to corroborate this, is John Laurinaitis' lawyer. Because if I'm not mistaken, he made a comment saying that, yes, the statement of Stephanie being there and then backing away, that she might know more about this. I'll put it to you like this, and this is just in a business standpoint. If the culture of a company is such that something like this has been going on from the earliest reports that we've heard, is going back to the 80s. If this is a culture that has been permeating in this company that long, there is no way on earth that you don't have a lot of people that don't know where all the bones are buried. It's impossible. And for this to happen as long as it has, and knowing you have Shane McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, all into the company as well, Linda McMahon, all of the McMahons at various points in time being ingrained in the everyday running and certain aspects of the company going forward. When something like this happens, no one knows anything about what's going on. Just like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and then both hands are getting washed, and then no one knows what to do, where to dry them off at. It's impossible. That being said, this makes Stephanie, it puts a rather grim side eye on the reputation of Stephanie McMahon, because these are all allegations. We don't know anything as 100% fact yet. And it'll probably be verified in a court of law when it gets adjudicated, whenever that is. If we're going to think that Stephanie, of all of the McMahons that most people looked at as the sane one, Because most of the people over the years have always talked about it. Stephanie was the most likable one. She was the most personable one with the wrestlers in the back. She was the one that went to bat for a lot of them. And the ironic part is she wanted to get this evolution of women going forward when they had that all women's pay-per-view years ago to try to get that image that women wrestlers are not just eye candy and Playboy models. That contradicts the idea behind this set of the accusations in the lawsuit. So there's a lot of stuff that has to be verified and looked at, but this is a really bad look for Stephanie McMahon if she did know something and did nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I disagree with you when you say the most sane McMahon. The most sane and the most likable, according to many people, is Shane. And Shane got out of there fast, got out of there for a long time, came back at that Rumble, hurt himself, which was, I mean, still one of the most memorable moments in Rumble history the way he got hurt. And then what happened? Vince fired him because of the altercation backstage with Brock. So their relationship has definitely been tainted over the years, father and son. What does he know, by the way? What does he know that made him leave? I mean, you can say all of them are culpable in knowing something. Even people like that are no longer with us. How about Howard Finkel? What did he know? What does Pat Patterson know? What does Gerald Briscoe know? There's got to be a list of people that know so many things.
Exactly. And the as I said before, this is ingrained in the culture of how the company was run. And when we're hearing about trafficking allegations, and we're hearing about videos, and we're hearing about assaults, and we're hearing about not just one or two or three women saying something, we're hearing about women that are no longer in the company, women that are on the other side of being athletic, being in the business, that are trying to almost corroborate or validate some of the points that have been made by others in some of these allegations. You start to paint a picture that is not good for the company. And I would like to think that TKO and Endeavor are trying to do everything in their power to eradicate a lot of the loose ends that are involved with the WWE. And I mean, if anyone is connected to this, if they can do their own, because I'm sure they're probably still doing their own internal investigations. If there's anyone still connected to that old regime of that has anything to do, either somebody that works in marketing, somebody that was maybe a cameraman, somebody that was a talent, somebody that worked as a trainer, anybody that's connected in that world that knows something, or because of plausible deniability, they know something, but they didn't see it because they were denied. I don't know. I have no idea. One of the reasons why I think Kevin Dunn retired, maybe he knows something. Right. So there are a lot of bones buried in a lot of different various places that a lot of different people know about. It's a matter of who's going to draw the treasure map to find out where the bones are. And I think that's what this lawsuit is going to go and get the facts that they need going forward. But this is, even though the WWE is in a better place as far as financially and in reputation from what they're doing as far as on-air talent, storylines, marketing, merchandising, etc., they still have to worry about this story being the albatross around their neck. That's not going away anytime soon.
Of course. And even with all the storylines that we've been vividly seeing for the past 48 days, of course, a lot of it is being talked about currently in the universe of pro wrestling. And people are seemingly saying that, this is just to take eyes and ears off of the whole situation with Vince and just to enjoy wrestling. You guys completely believe that's true? Or do you just believe that it's just the heat of the wrestling boom, or, the Renaissance, to where, we are supposed to be deemed to be listening and seeing all of these good things? What do you guys think?
Partially. I think partially some of it is there is a nugget of truth in that they're trying to kind of do the smoke and mirrors, kind of divert. And all businesses do that, where if there's some sort of controversy happening, the one thing is, let's give our fans more of what they want and distract them away from the legal side and the negativity that's going on until we can clean that up, or until it can be quote unquote forgotten or diminish the negativity that's attached to it. So I'm sure a lot of that is part of why certain things are going in the way that they're going. I don't think that's the number one reason, but I wouldn't be surprised if that had a big factor in it.
Well, I'll say this. If Paul Levesque is ever named in any of this and they have to fire him, when you think about the long-term damage, because we don't know what kind of mind The Rock has for creative. We don't know. And who he would put in place as a team to be creative. There could be some real like step backs with the company on that one. Like it's all the progress that has been made could definitely fall apart.
Yeah. What about Bruce Pritchard? That's another prominent name who has been a yes man of Vince McMahon for probably a better part of 30 years. He has to know something.
He does.
And as many times as I've heard him on different podcasts defend some of the nonsensical storylines that Vince has come up with, it makes you think, well, if he agrees with Vince in that degree as far as storyline stuff, including the half-baked idea as to how they basically ruined Terry Taylor with that Red Rooster gimmick. And well, all the Red Rooster had to do, it wasn't a literal rooster made, etc. He's cocky and he's doing it. BS. We know that. So you can spin that all you want. But if Bruce Pritchard is one of those people that is kind of like a liaison to the mind of Vince McMahon to kind of get that out to the talent and to the other people in the company, then he must know something. I don't know what he may know.
I don't even feel something. I feel like everything.
Maybe.
Completely. Like, let's sit here and kind of like, divulge a quick second. When Screwjob happened, who was there with Vince to go ahead and sit there and kind of like, corroborate the full story? Aside from
oh no, that was Bruce Pritchard. Sorry about that.
Just saying. You see, like the little things like that. A Katie Vick storyline. Who kind of helped Vince with that?
Brother Love. Oh, sorry. No. Go ahead.
Yeah. But Vince was this close to having a whole storyline where he was about to impregnate his own daughter.
Yeah. Think about what you just said and repeat that to the people that are watching this show right now.
It's just sick.
Wait, how about Vinny Rue? How about Vinny Rue knowing? Hey, bro. I don't know that much, bro. But you ask me, bro.
Yeah, that's right, bro. It's only wrestling, bro. Really?
Have mercy.
But I digress. There's just the first one for me is the second of the day.
Second of the day. Have mercy. Well, look, guys, we'll continue to monitor this situation, of course, because it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere anytime soon. But that marks the end of the first half of Same. When we come back, we will get into our questions. And then from our questions, we have the last topic of today's show, which is corporate Bloodline Rock era is upon us. So stay tuned. Do not go anywhere because the second half of Saturday afternoon's main event is coming up next. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the second half of Saturday afternoon's main event. Of course, it's the phenomenal one. Right beside me is the Peeps Nation. Right down below us is Mr. 411, Christopher Morton. Of course, guys. Of course.
Oh, Rich, real quick before we get into it, I was thinking, you know what the McMahons could do, or Vince in general? They could do what the Clintons did and kill everybody.
Oh boy.
Where's Saquon when you need him?
Oh boy.
Have mercy. We're getting political here, ladies and gentlemen. I love it. Oh gosh. But I love you guys. Oh gosh. But we're gonna get into our questions for today. We have a lot of them and we appreciate you guys. So look, if you guys want to send in a question, if you haven't yet, If you want to send in a question, all you got to do is one thing and one thing only. DM us on Instagram at Saturday Afternoons _ main event. And I guarantee, in the words of JBL, that it will be featured on the next episode of the show. So with that being said, let's get the first one in from Master Sean 007. He says, greetings, gentlemen. A long-time pet peeve of mine is something that the WWE has been doing for decades that irks me. And it's erasing someone from your history like they never existed for doing or saying something egregious. Doing that has trickled down effect towards past storylines and current former talent that comes off foolish to me. What do you guys think about the WWE Chris Benoit people? Does it come off like they're trying to rewrite history? Huh.
You want to try this one, Chris?
I know.
It's a plausible no for me, man. He was just like, I don't think I want to divulge into this one. Peeps, you take the whole.
I'll take this one. If you're looking at it from the standpoint of, we know why Chris Benoit has been quote unquote erased, eradicated, no promotion of to what he did in his career. We know all that. So I'm not going to get into the long story again. Basically what we're seeing right now is when a company decides to try to stay away from a lot of the negativity of a given story, something that can bring a lot of shame and potentially could bring lawsuits. They try to act as if that particular person did not exist. No contributions, nothing. The sports world is different in the fact that most people know about the O.J. Simpson trial from 30 years ago. So we know all of the things that have happened. But the NFL never went to try to erase O.J. Simpson and any of his on-field accomplishments. He's still in the Hall of Fame. He's still getting his NFL pension. He's still prominently known for what he has done on the field. But away from the field, he's a complete mess. And we know why.
Of course.
Vince McMahon right now, who has, let's really be honest, even though he didn't invent the WWF, WWE, he took that company from his father, which was his father's business, and turned it into the conglomerate that it is now. To actually say that although we know of the allegations and all of the evil that has come from this guy, to completely erase and eradicate him makes no sense, because then you're basically like, well, who was this Vince McMahon? You're going to have a silhouette on television? It's just going to be a shadow? You're going to be like Mr. Game & Watch. It's just a shadow and you're not going to see him? No. So erasing him, I can understand if they decided not to promote certain things with him, but to erase Vince McMahon based on everything that he's done, I don't know how it can be done. I don't know how you can do that.
I mean, Pete, currently right now, it seems like they're trying to go ahead and kind of do this with Brock Lesnar, so to say.
Yes.
I already heard that within WWE having, like, you know, their annual video game, WWE 2K24, currently coming out later this month. Mm-hmm. I heard that on the 40 years of WrestleMania cover, which Brock was featured on, they replaced him with a John Cena figure of that artwork. So it's like that, removing him from the intro to the show. All of that stuff seems like it's really happening, so to say, with Brock. So, yeah. I mean, if they're doing it to Brock, who has literally made the company money for the past how many years, what makes you think they're not going to be doing it with Vince? You know,
It's easier to do it with talent, because the talent can go anywhere, do anything. And also the fact that you know that the company can only do what they can based on what they did within their company on their watch. So if they wanted to do that with Brock, the same way they did this with Chris Benoit. And on a smaller note, they did the same thing with Hulk Hogan, because Hogan was in another video game for them. And then when the racist video came out, he was taken out of their Hall of Fame. They took off all of the advertising from him. All his merchandising was gone, and they yanked him off the network. Eventually, they kind of warmed up and brought him back. But as far as talent goes, I think it's a little easier to do it in that sense. When you actually kind of created the company that the company is there for, even though Vince doesn't necessarily own the company anymore, it's going to be a lot harder to do. I'm not saying that it can't be done, but it's much harder to do in the mindscape of the fans going forward.
I mean, peeps, let's be honest here. There's still a lot of Gen X's and Gen Z's around.
Yes.
I think a lot of people still remember who Jack Tunney was. You know, you can just say Jack Tunney died.
Jack on the take Tunney?
Jack on the take Tunney. Just say he never lost possession of, like, you know, the company, and say that he's still the president. Why not?
But also, if Jack Tunney was still around, Roman Reigns would have been stripped of his title multiple times by now.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yes.
Honestly speaking,
You got to defend that belt in 30 days or else. They would have had multiple tournaments. Because not only because of him, but because of how many wrestlers that have won that championship.
You mean have a tournament in Rio de Janeiro and name him the first Intercontinental Champion?
The tournaments that nobody would ever see.
Right. Oh gosh.
Yes.
Well, from there, I think I hope we answered your question to the best of our abilities, Master Sean 007.
Yes.
From there, we move to the next question. It is from Long Island Isaiah. He says, guys, why am I getting the feeling that WWE just signed Jade just to rub it in AEW's faces? Just one match, and that was the Rumble. Will we see progression before Mania, or is the momentum for her push gone up in flames? Or did they just not have anything for her to begin with?
I'll jump on that one. I mean, from what people say, if you look at her Rumble performance, while there were good moments in it, there were also really bad moments in it, and moments that they're trying to fix down in development. So it's not going to happen overnight. They know she's a star, but can she put on a match that isn't embarrassing? Because if you have her in the ring for more than 3 to 4 minutes, she's immediately exposed for not knowing where to be, what to do. Her timing is terrible. Placement, the understanding of psychology, all that stuff needs work. And some people never get it. She may never get it, or we'll see it in a year or two from now. But I don't think it's her is the reason why. It's what she does in the ring is the reason why.
So, and also the fact that she's young. It's not like she's like 30, 33 and has picked up a lot of bad habits. She's still in her 20s. So she still has enough time for the learning or to unlearn what she had in AEW and then work within the WWE's form and then get that taken care of. But also they have to put her in the ring with the right people that will accentuate the positives and hide the negatives, which is something that Paul Heyman used to always talk about. And that's one of the things that they're going to do with her. They're bringing her along slowly. And I think even with what they did with the Rumble, it was a good first outing for her to show them to show the fans, we haven't forgotten about Jade. She's still a big star in the making, and we're going to do this right. I think that's what the mindset is of why they booked her the way that they did.
Well, because I'm sure you guys are privy to the original plans was for her to be in the women's elimination chamber match, and then they scraped it. And I don't know the full story behind that, but I imagine it's because they don't feel she's ready to work a full match yet.
Yeah. And also, it's kind of weird to put her in an elimination chamber when she hasn't quote unquote earned it yet. I think the funny thing about being a wrestling fan is that kayfabe wise, they want something that makes sense to them. And even though in the minds of everybody that Jade Cargill is a star, it's the fact that she hasn't wrestled anyone yet. So to be able to throw her in the elimination chamber sight unseen after just having one appearance at the Rumble, then you could probably have fans like, well, what does she do to deserve getting that shot? You know, so that's probably where that mindset came from. It's like, you know what, let's pump the brakes on that and let's get her in a better state so that maybe by the summer we can start seeing those dividends of how she's improved.
And the reason the Rumble worked for her for the most part, aside from the sloppiness, was that she was able to show her athleticism and strength with what she did with Nia Jax. And those things always stand out. And not many people in the business, if any at all, could do what she does. Maybe Bianca, that's about it in terms of showing that strength. And I mean, aside from that, that's all she can show right now. So therefore, that match was perfect for her.
Yeah, and the Rumble has always been a great match to showcase a wrestler with spots. You don't necessarily have to have a lot of psychology when you know you're not going to win, you can just showcase, oh, this is your signature move spot. Oh, this is the big man spot. Oh, this is your off the top rope spot. This is your elimination spot. And you can kind of plan those along while she's getting to work with other wrestlers in the ring and not necessarily have the psychology of having to call a match or call spots, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that kind of helps.
Definitely so. Definitely so. So from there, Long Island, Isaiah, I hope we answered your questions to the best of our abilities. From there, we move to Tombstone City. Adam, he says, I feel like the Grayson Waller show in Perth next weekend will tell us what the main event to Mania Night 1 is. What do you guys think?
You want to take that, Nate?
Yeah, sure.
So honestly, look, here's what I'll think. Here's what I'll say before like Peeps jumps into it. If it's just me, I'll sit there and I'll say that we're not getting Rock and Roman versus Cody and Seth. I just can't see it. I can't see Cody wrestling 2 nights. I can't see Roman wrestling 2 nights. Seth, 2 matches in the same night or 2 matches within the weekend. Knowing his injuries, I can't see it as well. I don't know. It's just me. Peeps, whatever you're going to say, I want to listen because I don't know how this might go.
This is what I'm looking at. If we're going on if we're going to go on the auspices of figuring out how this first night is going to be based on an interview segment in Australia, that's kind of putting the cart before the horse. There's usually going to be something set up before we get there. And we had this conversation yesterday where if we're going to determine something, it's going to happen after Elimination Chamber. So if you're going to build something, that build will happen on Raw or SmackDown. That's what I think. Will Grayson Waller be a place where you could have a jumping off spot to kind of determine what happens for night 1 of WrestleMania? You could probably have that as a kind of like a germination spot. Maybe figure out, well, maybe you have Seth show up because we're figuring Seth isn't going to wrestle at the Chamber. Yeah. If he is, they haven't announced anything big because of his injury, how he's going to work, etc. If that's the case, then you can kind of slowly build that in. But I personally think the better thing to do would be to have your world champion on night 1 defend against Drew McIntyre, and then I think McIntyre should win the belt at WrestleMania. That's what I'm thinking should happen. If you want to go ahead and if you want to dangle Damian Priest in there, maybe you want to cash in one of those in that scenario, you can do that as well.
Wait, how long does he have left to cash in? Because this thing has gone on for a while.
He's had that since, what has it been, June?
July?
So,
wait, when is Money Event? When is Money?
Yeah.
He won it just before SummerSlam.
Oh, okay.
So if we're talking like July. So he still has, we're in February. You got about 5 months left.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought it's been longer than that. It just feels like it's been longer.
It feels like, yes, it does.
And by the way, I have a rant later, but I'm going to have one right now. Why in the world, I understand you want to do this show in Australia, but when you're asking people on the East and West Coast of America to wake up at the times you're asking them to wake up to watch the show, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? So people in LA, California, they have to just pull an all-nighter because they're going to see it at 2:30. We have to be up at what, 5:30 to see it?
5:30 in the morning. Yes.
That is crazy.
Yes.
Have mercy.
Which was one of the reasons why a lot of people that were pushing for the whole WrestleMania in London thing, they had to think about, well, it's kind of hard for somebody to stay up, but over in Europe, they stay up sometimes in the morning to watch American pay-per-views live. Yeah,
but Sean, but hold on, Nate, if you're going to do a pay-per-view from London, you could still do a 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock start time in America and on the East Coast. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not 5:30 in the morning.
True.
There's a huge difference there.
Yeah, especially since Australia's on the other side of the world. So, yeah.
True, understandable. But I mean, the amount of fans that I'd be sitting there, like, like what? France is like, what, 6 hours ahead?
Yes.
So it's like, like when you have like a pay-per-view like WrestleMania up like, at 8 p.m. in, Eastern Standard Time, and you have to sit there, you're kind of like, okay, why not? Like, be at a bar, like, around like what? Like 4-ish? 4-ish? Like, 4 in the morning. Why not? So, I mean, they've had the better part of, they've had the better part of having to go ahead and do this for like a cool little minute. So I guess, just one time out of our lifetimes, maybe, it couldn't be too bad. I know it still sucks. Trust me. I don't know how I feel having to wake up at 4 just to watch a pay-per-view, and then on top of that, me and Peeps have to sit there and kind of wonder about a show later.
Yeah.
Wait, first of all,
we'll figure it out at some point.
Wait. We're Americans, so we're selfish, right? We don't care about the rest of the world. It's about us. What time we have to wake up. I don't care about the other countries and what time they have to see the other pay-per-views. The numbers you talked about in terms of what you do with Grayson Waller, doesn't Peacock get more numbers for the PLEs than Raw and SmackDown? I mean, I would think they do.
I would hope so. That's probably where, and then of course with the premium live events that they show ads in for those that don't pay the premium price, so they're getting money either way.
Right.
It's crazy because I've never seen the metrics for a Peacock PLE. I'm not gonna lie to you, so I don't know like how that looks like. I don't know what they say like are the metrics live.
There's your homework. There's your homework. Check that out by next week.
So gosh, have mercy. Homework on wrestling. It's not like I haven't done homework on wrestling enough already in my lifetime, but you know what? I'll do it.
You've had a lot of years of catching up to do, haven't you?
Sadly, it seems like it, right? But from there, we move to the last question for today. It comes from Hot Rod 316. He says, "Is the Undisputed Era, the Undisputed Mid-Carders, or whatever they are called now, along with the Devil's Plot, one of AEW's biggest flops? Plus, have you watched or heard of the show Big Little Brawlers, a show about midget wrestlers? This show is gaining more ground in AEW. How is that possible?"
I'll take the last one. By the way, the Big Little Brawlers did beat, what was it, Collision, right? That one night
yes, it did.
Against the Royal Rumble, it beat Collision. And I can't speak I haven't seen the product. I don't think I'll watch the product, but yeah. And to the other one, just real quickly, listen, they were booked poorly before the Devil was revealed. They looked like mid-card jobbers. And then all of a sudden you take the mask off the Devil, and have they been booked any differently? No, that's the problem. They're not out there looking like a big deal. And Adam Cole being on the shelf doesn't help. The whole timeline doesn't help. Everything has failed because of his injury, I think.
Yeah. And if they were supposed to be, okay, the one thing as a faction that's starting something along the lines of what they're doing now, the one thing that they're supposed to do is instill fear in the entire top of the card. They're not doing that. They're not going after, say, they said Samoa Joe, his payment for helping get the belt off of MJF was to say, okay, at some point down the road, Wardlow is going to be the guy that's going to win the belt, and then he's going to bequeath the belt to me as if he was Ted DiBiase with Andre the Giant from back in '88. That's the plan, which doesn't make any sense, but I digress.
There's a number 2, right?
There you go. And in general, when you're looking at what they're supposed to do that they have not done, they're basically floating around. Roderick Strong is going after the international championship. You'd think that they would have jumped Orange Cassidy to let him know, I'm putting you on notice, that belt is going to be mine. No, he tells him a month and a half in advance, I'm going after the international championship. Orange Cassidy, in a moment of levity, says, "Oh, you want the title shot now?" No, he says, "I'm going to wait until Revolution," which is a whole month after he made the challenge in the first place, which made no sense. So how does that work in the framework of a faction that's trying to instill fear in everybody? Obviously, the injuries hurt, but 2 of the guys that are in the faction are tag team champions on another brand. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, good Lord.
Wait, but Nate, they're presented as top guys on the Ring of Honor show, but they still look like mid-card jobbers on.
Yes, because they don't show the other brand on television. That's what makes no sense to me. If you don't subscribe to the Honor Club app, or you don't watch Ring of Honor, you have no idea what the tag team champions from Ring of Honor, what they do, how they're booked, how they're portrayed. And then, of course, the only thing that Adam Cole is, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the best wrestlers out there. But as he said in his own words, his ankle exploded. So we don't know how long he's going to be on the shelf. And what is he doing? He's sitting in a wheelchair. He's sitting at the table commentating. He's doing certain things. Everything other than instilling fear in the rest of the roster.
Is it
the best thing that happened out of this entire thing is that Samoa Joe is world champion and he's showing his dominance on television. That's the best thing that's happened out of this entire feud.
Is it possible they can start sending Adam Cole PEDs so we can see an increase in his size?
That was a rant that had to get out. So there you go.
How about feeding him a meal or two? You know, remember the old commercial with Sally Struthers? You can feed a child for 25 cents a day. You can feed Adam Cole for that amount.
Oh man, I believe that's always been the criticism with Adam Cole, is that he's never really been a filled up guy, but he can still give you in ring really good matches.
No, he was
bigger. He can't stay healthy.
No, he's had a lot of injuries because if you look at his ROH days, he's clearly bigger there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's facts. Oh, jeez. Oh, wow. Taekwon says this. Give Adam Cole some of Scott Steiner's...
Wow.
What is this, R. Kelly? Like, bro, what are we doing here? Like, what are we
drip.
Is this the remix edition?
Dave Chappelle has nothing on Chris. I kid you not.
No.
Oh man. Oh wow. Phenom asks, how many titles does AEW have?
I don't even think they know. Let's see.
Yeah.
They're world champion. They have the tag team championships. They have the TNT championship, the TBS championship, the international championship, the Continental Crown championship.
Right.
They brought in the Ring of Honor tag team 6-man and world titles. They also have the Ring of Honor Pure championship, which is part of that triple crown that they have. The 6-man tag team championships, which is with the Bang Bang Scissor Gang.
How about the Owen Hart trophy? That was also a title. Remember that?
Yeah, it was a title for the men and the women, and they haven't had one since. I think Willow won the women's one most recently, and the men's one was won by I forgot.
Because it didn't matter. It didn't matter. Nobody thought about it.
What a segue! It doesn't matter.
Guys, Jesus.
Oh boy.
Oh man. Oh gosh. And I mean, for God's sakes, we can already just add the New Japan Strong Openweight title to them too, because I mean, it's shown more on AEW television more than New Japan, so it's like, what the heck? So I guess we could just add that. What's next? Tony Khan's gonna go ahead and find Rossi Ogawa and take the Stardom title back to AEW as well. Like, what are we doing here? Like, have mercy.
Nate, we need the Western States Heritage title. That
yes. Let's bring Barry Windham back and let him defend it on AEW television.
Remember,
why not?
Only if time is permitting. Remember, stand by.
Yes. As time permitting, we might have some substitute matches if this thing goes. Oh man, it's funny. AEW, when they go to, they'll tell you we have a title match and we're going to stay on as long as possible to get this match in, and it almost always ends a minute before the show's about to go off the air. So,
because you have to make time for Tony Schiavone's. Oh my God, guys, we're out of time. Gotta go. See you next week. We gotta be on that. Like, I mean, at this point, we gotta go ahead and replace that with Tony Khan just. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next week, or see you guys on Rampage and Collision.
Yeah, everything is great, guys.
For those that care, there is no Collision tonight. So,
great.
Wait, for those who care, peeps. Care?
Yes.
Care. For God's sakes, Peach, you lost your marbles.
Yes.
People care about Collision.
Look, Collision has actually had good matches. The problem is the night that it's on and what it goes up against. And they've booked it, and especially over the last, well, probably since CM Punk is no longer there. The booking of Collision has been very up and down. You'll get a good show here, and then 2 weeks later you'll get. So that's part of the problem.
I think in the future you'll be able to book Collision on your roof at home. So many people are going to show up.
Oh boy!
Dark humor for the most, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
This is insane. Taekwon just put out something. Peeps, have mercy. He says, "I haven't cared about Collision since." Damn, I can't.
Wow.
I can't even. Wow. Okay,
Too soon? Too soon?
Too soon? I mean, 4 years. I think it's too soon.
I have to dab the forehead on that one.
Where's my water? I think I need it.
Yes.
Oh gosh. Okay, so guys, look. That marks the end of our questions for Saturday afternoon's main event. Guys, we appreciate the questions. We love them. Look, you guys want to continue to send in more? All you got to do is one thing and one thing only. DM us on Instagram at Saturday afternoons_main event, and it will be featured on the next episode of the show. With that being said, we move into our last topic for today. And when we have to move into the last topic, we have to go ahead and have some type of song to it. You know what? I think this might be it. Okay. That fits, right? I think so. So look, all I'm going to do is just give the floor to one Christopher Morton. The floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so The Rock comes out last night, and he immediately goes to the crowd, and he says, "You guys have set an attendance record." And he names a number. Now, you knew right away where he was going with this. He was setting them up as somebody would know his history and what he did as a heel. But those fans in the crowd, they bought it, and they started cheering when he announced the number. But also keep in mind, if you think back to the Attitude Era, there's no doubt in my mind the number was higher. So you knew right there something was coming. Something was coming without question. And I'm literally, as the fans start cheering, I'm shaking my head in disbelief. And I was embarrassed for everyone in the crowd. And why, you ask? Because wrestling fans are as dumb as WWE has treated them. Let's be honest. Most wrestling fans are idiots. Okay? Some should even wear a helmet. I would not be surprised if some wrestling fans drool. I'm just saying. I mean, did you know 35% of Trump voters were not college educated? Now, I'm personally inclined to believe that number is significantly lower for wrestling fans. All right? It might be in the teens. It's that bad. All right? That's why, when people say smart fan, that's the greatest oxymoron ever. Because most wrestling fans aren't smart, period. They're just idiots. Think about it. WWE has been feeding them the same crap over and over again for years, and they keep taking it, and they go back for more. That's like being raped, and then the next day going to your rapist and asking for it again.
God.
I digress.
Oh,
Wow.
Wow. That's number 4.
Gee, that was a prominent fourth one. Oh,
yes.
Cow.
Yeah. Whew. How do you follow that one up?
How do you follow that one up? I don't even.
That was a good show, folks. See you next week.
I don't have a mic to drop. Sorry, I should have had a mic to drop.
Yeah, just pipe bomb. We should have had the camera pan out a little bit more just so you could sit down crisscross applesauce, man. Like,
yes.
Wow.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong though?
Wow.
I mean, you're not wrong there at all. That's why I was sitting there kind of like, yo, this man, you know what? He may be funny right now, but just like The Rock last night, it may have been funny, but he's spitting facts. So I can't sit there and kind of take it. But no, the fact that the last comment was what killed it for me. I kid you not. I was just like, oh God. Wow. Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. This is real life.
It's the crazy part about and this is something that I like about heels in general. The best heels are the ones that they dial it up, but they tell the truth. because the truth, when you tell a fan, is something that they can't boo. That's what makes a great heel a great heel. When Chris Jericho was doing that best in the world stuff, he was actually spouting truth, and the fans would boo him, but there's nothing for me to hate you about because you just told the truth. Those are the kinds of heels that work, and The Rock did that with his Hollywood Rock stuff yesterday.
Speaking of that, let's bring up a picture. Look at this. If you were to tell me about maybe a couple of months into the inception of the Bloodline that this picture would actually be taken and be real, and that we would actually get this, I'd look at you and slap you in the face because I wouldn't believe it.
Nation of domination. That's kind of very reminiscent.
Oh, definitely is. But peeps, if we just got to add here, can't we notice that The Rock is the only one that's not actually doing the Bloodline hand gesture? The man's actually throwing up an L. What are we trying to go ahead and accomplish here, Rocky? For real. So now, here's what I have to say about this. It was nicely done. I loved every single minute of it. The nostalgia, that factored in. The $500 Versace shirt, that factored in. The fact that he modernized it and kind of made it the Hollywood Rock sleeveless, just the best, that rocked hard. Okay, that was amazing. But the one thing that I think a lot of people aren't noticing, but they're kind of bringing it up now, later within today, is that when The Rock had said, Cody, I am going to do everything in my power at WrestleMania to make sure that you walk out a loser. Just that phrase within itself, I don't think nobody notices it. When he said that to make sure that you walk out a loser, he literally said you and pointed to Roman Reigns, which leads me to sit there and begin to think he didn't have any shades on. You couldn't see him look into anybody's direction, which is always what's the ominous good thing about like The Rock, especially from the Attitude Era, is that when he has the shades on, it's kind of like he's speaking in a third person and you're trying to sit there and wonder who the hell is he trying to go ahead and talk to in the ring. But then once you see it happen later, months later, it's like, oh, now it makes sense. This right here is setting me up to sit there and think we're getting one of two things at WrestleMania. Either he officially turns on Roman at Mania, or it's later after, or he somehow ends up having Roman lose the title somehow, some way, shape, or form that weekend. But peeps, just sitting there, looking at this version of The Rock, hearing the promo, calling the fans trailer park trash, calling the fans inbred.
Yes.
I kid you not. Chef's kiss. Peeps, what were your thoughts, man?
Without question, one of the most fun promos that I've seen in quite some time. And it goes back to reading the room. He had that crowd hook, line, and sinker on everything. Chris just stated they brought out the mindset of reeling the fans in with the fake. I'm gonna plead to them and get with them and let them know what's happening, because we all know, we've seen this before. Okay, he's setting them up so he can knock them down, and that's literally what he did. And getting on the crowd side and then letting them know there's no more sing along with The Rock. Those, you don't deserve that anymore. And going hand in hand with the fans chanting for Cody and him shooting them down. They did the what chants. He shot the what chants down. He went back and forth with the fans as somebody that is a master at manipulating the fans' reaction, getting what he wants out of the fans while staying in character, and allowing the fans to do what they do, which is boo or cheer, and then working off of that. That was brilliantly done. And it was one of the rare instances that we got a Bloodline segment where Roman basically said nothing. Mm-hmm. Here's the danger in this whole spectrum of The Rock overshadowing Roman.
Yep.
And I don't mean from a purely kayfabe aspect. I mean from an attention and eyeballs trending on X kind of flow. Because you don't want to have the star that's coming in that's supposed to accentuate the angle dominate with their own flavor in the food. That's what's supposed to happen. It's supposed to be an accentuation. You know, this is the danger that they run if they don't do this the right way. And like I said, Roman, I understand why it was done. Roman is there to accept him in the bloodline. Now, is this going to be similar to what happened with the Nation of Domination? Ironically, we bring that back full circle, where everybody in the Nation of Domination thought The Rock was trying to take over. Is this the same situation? Tune in and find out.
Are you privy to the backstage news in terms of what The Rock did when he learned that Cody was more over in terms of how he was presented, and initially he wanted to wrestle Roman? Stories come out now that The Rock decided to turn heel and decided to side with Roman first. I don't know if you read that or not.
It makes the most sense because it's like reading the room. He initially, the reports that I read was that not only did he want to wrestle Roman, he actually wanted to win the belt from him at WrestleMania, right. Which is like, how does that help anyone? Right. Not only does it not help the card, you literally castrated Roman Reigns in front of all of those fans that you built up over the last 3.5, almost 4 years. So that does nothing for anybody. But what they're doing now, they're leaning into what the fans are doing as far as booing and the scat that's going on, that strife, chaos, angst, and turmoil that he usually brings in. That's where they're going to lean in. And I really am curious what they do next week, because the best thing that they did was there was no Cody on the show. Cody's got to respond on Monday. Let's see where they go from there. And then you got Friday SmackDown, which is going to be in Perth, Australia, because they're going to tape it and then do their SmackDown episode there I believe in the same building that they're going to do the Elimination Chamber. I am very curious as to what Cody's response is going to be. And I'm also curious as to the response for Seth Rollins, because he factors in this somehow.
Oh, definitely. So from there, it's funny because Taekwon says this. I think this is into Chris's thought process. He says, most wrestling fans have the intelligence of Forrest Gump fused with Beetlejuice. That's a good one. I'll take that one. The Phenom says this. He's like, I agree with The Rock, especially when he brought up the 98 Bulls. The one thing I have to say with the promo delivery, and one thing that you said, Peeps, is that he kind of overshadowed Roman. And I think that's the whole goal here, Peeps. If we kind of noticed, when they played like the intros, which I love that they do now before the whole show begins, where they actually show the wrestlers coming in and everything.
Yes.
When Roman came in, you saw how jumpy he was, how excited and ecstatic, out here hugging Jimmy.
Yes.
Solo, dabbing up Solo, like today's going to be a great day. And I get it. Yeah, it was a great day by adding Rock to the bloodline. But that's the most real that I think we've gotten out of Roman since the inception of the Tribal Chief character came into play.
That is true.
We've never seen him smile that much. And then, of course, later into the night, when he kind of like directs his promo, he's like, look, you guys are going to boo what my cousin has to say. But just know that everything that he says is the truth. Nothing came out of his mouth about him, the feature of the title, as much, nothing, just, oh yeah, Cody, yeah, the one that ruined everything. That's all he said.
Yes.
Which The Rock later elaborated to. But it's like, they're playing this story so well, where they're having it kind of tie into Roman not noticing that he is actually losing everything.
Yes.
And this is the beginning of the end. Because The Rock being in the bloodline kind of just signals off that, look, Roman is no longer in charge. And I told you this from the beginning of the press conference when I was like, look, you notice that The Rock has High Chief in his name on the Titantron within the family tree. Roman's just called the Tribal Chief, but we know High Chief has a much more bigger impact within it. But now him being implemented into the Bloodline, who is Solo and Jimmy really gonna have to listen to here? Is it going to be the High Chief or is it going to be the Tribal Chief?
So here's how I think this plays out. I mean, this is pretty easy to determine also. It's right in front of you. Sometimes the most obvious is often the best. Mm-hmm. So if Cody does beat Roman for the title at WrestleMania, The Rock comes out, pretends like he's going to console Roman, and then he beats him down. Mm-hmm. Beats him down to the point where The Rock is on Roman's on the shelf. He's out of commission for X amount of time. Then The Rock challenges Cody for the title at maybe SummerSlam. Cody beats The Rock, and then Roman comes out to get his revenge. And then you set up The Rock versus Roman, maybe at Survivor Series or before that. Who knows how long the timeline can play out.
For me, I just sit there and think, I think for a fact that they're going to play the long game with this. And if they're going to be playing the long game, I see Rock versus Roman at next year's WrestleMania. Okay. Yeah. With implementation that they're going to pull the same thing that they did with Once in a Lifetime, where they took the whole year to build.
Yeah.
That makes sense. For me, I think that they're going to still get that match, and we're still going to get that main event. It's just most likely at a later time. And now we're hearing that rumblings of WrestleMania 41 possibly taking place in Minnesota. Now it's kind of jumped the gun. It's second place, and now first might actually be Vegas.
Right.
And if it is, I honestly do sit there and believe that this will be they will pull the plug on having Roman and Rock main event that night 2 of Mania 41. Because this story, being how it's implemented now, we're sitting there, we all know, okay, for a fact, they're going to main event WrestleMania. Just not now. Let Cody have a shot. Let Cody win the title, and then we'll go from there. And
that works. And like I said before, and I think I brought this up last week, parts of what I think may happen if they go in this route is that Roman loses the belt, and it's more The Rock starts pulling people from the bloodline away from Roman. And I don't think it's as much a struggle with, who are the faction guys that are siding with Roman versus siding with The Rock. It's more along the lines of you treated these guys like pawns and you still lost. And you could have Solo, you can have Jimmy, who he's treated like absolute garbage over the last couple of years. And all those guys that are within there siding with The Rock based on saying, look, I'm a bigger star than you. They can even reference 2015, where even when I was in the ring with you and I raised your hand and the fans did not want to cheer for you, you weren't even good enough then to get the rub from me. And look at what you're doing now. And I'm still better than you. And they can play that by kicking him, quote unquote, out of the bloodline. Because we all know all good heels eventually have that next phase, which is when they eventually become a face. It's happened with Bayley. It's happened with Ric Flair in the past. It's happened with Randy Orton. When somebody has been so good at being bad that the fans want to cheer you again.
Hogan.
And that's what I think is going to happen.
Hollywood Hogan going back to
Hollywood Hogan, exactly.
So I guess the little pieces and the little keys right there, it just kind of like attests to what road that they might be going on. But just to kind of like piggyback off of what Chris said earlier with what he thinks might happen at Mania, for me, I don't even think he puts the beat down on Roman. I honestly don't even think that, because he already lost everything. What I think that makes it hard as most is this is what will happen. Cody wins, whatever the case may be. Jimmy, Solo, Rock, and Heyman are all standing around the ring. And Roman's just like, you know what, it's cool. I lost the title, but that doesn't mean I'm no longer tribal chief. I still got that title, and it was given to me by the elders. As Heyman is about to go in with the necklace to put around Roman's neck, Rock stops Heyman, and he snatches the necklace away from Heyman. And as he snatches the necklace away from Heyman, he nods to Jimmy and he nods to Solo, and he tells them to follow in line. And what they do is that as Rock turns his back to go straight to the ramp, they follow suit as well. And all you have left is a wise man kind of shocked at what just happened, and Roman standing without it. Put it like this: what Cody alluded to last year, a Roman with no reign, and a chief without no tribe.
Mm-hmm.
The easiest way to put it, right there.
Yeah,
And
Lose the title and the tribe. It's
the last time we saw that, by the way, was the Garden SmackDown we went to when Solo took the chain.
yes.
exactly.
And that's what I think would be the evolution of the storyline, is that The Rock may not be there to take over as the head of the bloodline, but he could be there to kind of aid in the transition of Solo getting that tribal chief from Roman. And at the same time, everybody within the tribe turning on Roman based on how he treated them. Remember the court case that they did with Sami Zayn, and they showed on the Jumbotron all of the things that Roman said to a lot of the wrestlers that were in the bloodline at the time, all of the nasty things he said, the cocky attitude. They could use that against him. And then he'd have to go through some sort of soul searching before he realizes what his mistakes were, and then comes back, and then he's a face. Because I think the fans are ready to cheer Roman, but it has to be done in a way that will accelerate the pace of when they do that.
So you're saying he could just be like a bad, like still like, just like a badass, but just like, in the sense of like back to being the guy, but actually getting cheered.
He can be the face version of what he is right now. I don't think anybody wants to see the quote unquote the big dog return. I think the big dog is already that part of his character has already been swallowed by the tribal chief. It's now taking that tribal chief moniker, that attitude and that confidence that he has when he's doing promos, because that promo that he cut a couple of weeks ago, where he literally eviscerated Seth Rollins, that's the tribal chief that people want to see. That's the Roman Reigns people want to see. But imagine him cutting a promo in that style as a face. See what happens with that.
A lot of good things come from that. You're not wrong on that. Not wrong at all. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, that marks the end of Saturday afternoon's main event. Guys, we had an amazing show today. It was great. We had the return of Christopher Morton from the show. We appreciate you coming on.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just had a correction, by the way. I was wrong when I was naming my Trumper stat. It's actually only 35% are college educated, which makes the number even worse. That only 35% of them
that's more of an indictment on WWE
that's
fans.
Why they vote for me, because I'm smarter than they are, even though they're idiots.
Good grief.
It's huge.
Yeah.
This is amazing. This whole episode was great. I kid you not.
Yes.
But nah, Chris, we appreciate you being on the show for today, man.
Yes.
We loved it. We love having you. We can't wait for you to go ahead and come back again. Peeps, of course, once more, always doing your thing as a co-host, and then of course me. The pleasure is all yours. Okay, let me see. not that much of a heel now. I'm a tweener. Come on, Rich, step out of it.
There you go.
But, guys, with that being said, we will see you guys next week for episode 6, whether it be, I don't even think we're going to be doing a live stream for it.
That's hard.
4 in the morning?
Are you going to get up at 4 in the morning to do a live stream? I think we'll probably look.
I'll have to sit there with about 7 cups of coffee watching this show. I don't know how I'm going to be. I don't even know if I'm really...
Unless we can pull an all-nighter with hookers and coke, then we'll be good.
Good grief.
Family show. I'm sorry. I know it's a family show.
Have mercy. Oh gosh. Oh man. But probably within later in the day, we will have a show. Give it to you guys. Trust me, whether it even be for an hour, we will go ahead and at least give you guys what we are supposed to give you: laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. So with that being said, we'll see you guys next week. And it was on this episode of Saturday afternoon's main event that I, the phenomenal one,
And I, the Peeps Nate,
And I, Mr. 411.
where we came.
we saw.
Am I old school here or what am I doing?
Old school.
You are whatever you want.
That's it.
There you go. There you go.
See you guys next week for episode 6. It's Mr. 411. It's the Peeps Nate. It's the phenomenal one. And it's Saturday afternoon's main event. Peace, love,